found on a Harvard chat group right here. It says, until Trump backs down, if he does, I think we blacklist Trump supporters on campus. Don't let them into clubs. Don't be friends with them. Certainly don't date them. Bring back real social consequences for politically affiliating with a fascist. This is coming off the heels of Trump saying that he wanted to revoke their tax exempt status. And now, more recently, revoking international student exchange visitor program certification. I'm just going to read for you this message right here from Secretary Noem from Department of Homeland Security. She says this administration is holding Harvard accountable for fostering violence, anti-Semitism, and coordinating with the Chinese Communist Party on its campus. It is a privilege, not a right, for universities to enroll foreign students and benefit from their higher tuition payments to help pad their multi-billion-dollar endowments. Harvard had plenty of opportunity to do the right thing. It refused. They have lost their student exchange visitor program certification as a result of their failure to adhere to the law. Let this serve as a warning to all universities and academic institutions across the country. Here is the official letter that was sent from Secretary Noem, basically saying that their student exchange visitor program decertification is revoked. And now, could you believe it? This happened just now, literally live breaking news. Judge Allison D. Boros, who is an Obama-appointed judge, big shocker there, she just issued an order blocking the Trump administration from revoking Harvard's ability to enroll foreign students. I know I've said this before in previous videos, but these are not higher education institutions anymore. The aim and purpose of going to any learning institution is to engage in our God-given sovereignty, which is one of the pillars of the founding fathers' vision of our country, embedded in the Constitution, the very fabric of our country, as well as our great poets, philosophers, Emerson, Whitman, and that is self-reliance and critical thinking. Higher ed institutions specifically, particularly, are not supposed to teach you what to think, but the importance, the significance of higher ed learning, all learning, is to teach you how to think, how to look at something, how to critically analyze it, how to understand what's happening underneath the subtext, to really ascertain the true meaning behind something, to not let the wool be pulled over your eyes. That is what higher ed learning is all about. And it's no longer that. I'm speaking from firsthand experience. It's no longer that. These are now indoctrination camps. They don't teach you how to learn. They don't teach you how to think. They tell you explicitly what to think. It's very anti-American. It's very anti-constitutional. It's very racist and discriminatory. And if you don't believe me, check out this graph right here. I did a little bit of research, and the graph that you see on the screen right now, you will see that the vertical axis is the admission rate percentage over the last 10 years. And the horizontal axis is separated by race. And you will see a disproportionate amount of percentages of admission rates by race. And you will see that Asians and whites are disproportionately discriminated against, while people of color, I hate even using these words, black, white, because to me it means nothing. But just for the sake of this study, you will see that blacks and Hispanics receive far larger margins of acceptance rates than their white and Asian counterparts. And this is just an absolute microcosm, a sort of cross-section of what's happening all across these so-called higher ed learning. If this is happening at Harvard, folks, take it from Professor Nez, it's happening all over, especially at the public schools and the state-funded schools. Our tax dollars are essentially funding racism and discrimination. I want to share you this quick clip of Secretary Noem talking about it's not a right, but a privilege for American schools to host foreigners on their campus. And then come on back, I'm going to share another very powerful clip from Harvard alum and very, very successful investor and hedge fund manager, Bill Ackman. I think it's just one of the most profound exploits into the utter egregiousness of Harvard. So come on back for that. But first, check out Secretary.
You say it is a privilege, not a right, for American schools to be able to host foreigners on their campus.
Yes, that's exactly right. And this program has been in place for a very long time. These policies have been in place for a long time, and Harvard brought these consequences upon themselves. They have promoted and allowed violent activity on campus. They have allowed anti-Semitism, participation with CCP and Chinese infiltration and influence on their campus, and they haven't protected their students. So we have given them multiple opportunities to share criminal activity with us, backgrounds on these students, to let us conduct the oversight into this program that is our responsibility, and they have refused to do so. So today I sent them a letter that said they will no longer be allowed to participate in this student exchange visitor program, and that's up to 27% of their enrolled students. So it's significant. Any foreign student that wishes to get an education in this country that is attending Harvard and not participating in this criminal activity, they will have to find another university to go to, because Harvard has chosen instead to not protect their students and to allow this kind of violent and discriminatory action.
I'm just going to go ahead and say it too. I'm going to say what nobody wants to say. And I'm going to say that most professors, admin, not this one, administrators, and the like, and basically the powers that be, presidents, vice chancellors, they all hate America. They all hate Trump. They hate capitalism. Why? Because they don't have the balls. They don't have the talent. They don't have the skills. They don't have any wherewithal on how to create and envision something powerful that helps other people. All they know how to do is they're critics and they're rule enforcers. And they pride themselves on reading all these ridiculous books that doesn't do anything for anybody. And they pride themselves with accruing all these useless pieces of paper from said institutions. They hate America. Their consumption and hate of our guy Trump has absolutely consumed them from head to toe. So all of these protesters, aka terrorists, that they harbor, nurture, and essentially groom on their campuses. I mean, I can tell you without a shadow of doubt that the Communist Manifesto, Das Kapital, Bolshevikism runs rampant all over these universities. And we're just now seeing it. COVID really illuminated a lot. One, if there is a benefit that could come, I mean, there's probably multiple benefits from COVID, but one of the big ones is that COVID exposed the educational system for their lack of innovation, for their lack of change, their lack of adaptability. I mean, just last night, my daughter came up to me and said, "Dad," I said, "Yes, dear. Why do I have to memorize capitals and states? Is that going to help me in life?" I couldn't lie to her. I mean, they're still teaching 100-year-old memorization. Memorization has nothing to do with anything in the real world. There's still 2025. The year is 2025. Don't get me wrong. I think it's awesome to know that Oklahoma City is the capital of Oklahoma. That's great. But to just have these run-of-the-mill standardized memorization, robotic curriculums and tests and quizzes that do nothing, that literally go one ear and out the other, and literally you could just Google all of that stuff. You shouldn't be teaching anything that you can Google and get an answer in 2 seconds. You should be teaching them critical thinking. You should be teaching them survival. You should be teaching them adaptability, evolution of thought, process, critical discernment, things that matter. They're not doing that, and they never will. That's the truth. Okay, check out this clip right here from Bill Ackman, just really giving it straight about Harvard and how they've conducted themselves over the last 24 months. Watch.
But the university has continued to mismanage every element of their business. They mismanaged the endowment. They've let their administrative expense get completely out of control, and now they're mismanaging their relationship with the university. The wrong thing to do with President Trump is to escalate. Look at what happened with China, where tariffs are. We're now in we're in DEFCON, 3, with respect to Harvard. So what did Harvard do? They just they didn't acknowledge anything that was correct in the letter from the administration, and then they turned around and they said, definitively no, and then they sued the administration. My view is, and I think this is the view of most Americans, is that the federal government giving taxpayer money to a university is a privilege and not a right. And so what did the Trump administration ask for? They said, look, you need to reduce your administrative bloat, okay? Because, by the way, money is fungible, and maybe we're funding science projects, but, you know, but effectively we're funding your overhead expense. And you need to bring your overhead expense down. You have to be, if you're going to take money from the taxpayers, we have to know that there's no waste. And there's massive, massive waste at Harvard. If you look at the compound annual, I did a little PowerPoint buy, sell, or hold on Harvard, which you can find out there. But if you look at the compound annual growth rate in administrative expense and, you know, the FTEs, you know, full-time equivalents of the administrators versus faculty, you know, the admin expense goes up like this, and the faculty is basically flat. So it's, you know, if you think about this as a business, it's a business where when I graduated from Harvard, there were 1,600 people in my class. And the business of Harvard is educating, you know, that 1,600. Well, if you fast forward to today, the graduating class of 2024 had like 1,640 people in it. Okay, so the university grew 3% over 36 years. Can you tell me of any great business of which you are aware? By the way, that's not a 3% annual compound rate. That's a 3% rate. It's probably it's hard for me to do the math, but it's 0.0 something, 8% compounded annual growth over 40 years. So it's not, you know, and think about the growth in the population over the period. Think about the percentage of foreign students that are going to Harvard now. So this institution, chartered, oldest corporation in America, to educate the future leaders of our country, is educating a tiny fraction of what it, you know, was chartered to do, kind of going back in time. So and the federal funding to Harvard has continued to increase kind of over this sort of period of time.
One thing to just add to what Bill Ackman is saying is that administrative salaries are exorbitantly larger than any faculty, especially adjunct faculty, which I was. I was teaching at multiple different universities just to try to make ends meet when I first got married and I was first having children. I left the private sector to go into the public sector and be a professor. And I'm just going to say this too, last thing. If you think the narcissism and ego of Wall Street, hedge fund managers, business people, or what have you is large, you ain't seen nothing until you've met the people that work at these universities. My God. If you think Trump has a big ego, multiply that by 100, and then you'll have a vice chancellor of a university or a president of a university or a chair of a specific department or any kind of administrative leader. They are the absolute worst of the worst, and they listen to nobody. They hate to be questioned. They hate to be challenged. They hate anybody to say that what they're thinking and what their ideas are could be just a little bit off, even just a little bit off. They absolutely blow their tops. They are the E in ego, and it's almost impossible to work with them. Hence, this is why we have this massive problem. How many of you remember Ethan, who works at Doge, what he said about Harvard and what his Harvard classmates and Harvard itself said about him after he left Harvard, dropped out of Harvard to serve his country? If you forgot, check out this clip.
I dropped out of Harvard and came here to serve my country. And it's been unfortunate to see, you know, lost friendships. Most of campus hates me now. But I think fundamentally, I hope people realize through conversations like this that reform is genuinely needed. And if there's one, I think this is important to say, if there's one group of people who really have a shot of success, it's the people here. You know, they're up until 2 a.m. Monday through Sunday. Doge did not recognize weekends.
That's what Harvard's all about. That's what higher ed is all about. No. He gets vilified, demonized. Why? Because he decided to say, you know what? I don't believe in what you believe, Harvard. I don't believe in what you think, higher education. I actually believe in Doge. I actually believe in America. I love my country. I think this is the greatest country on earth. I want to serve my country. I do think there's a lot of fraud, abuse, and waste, as is proven time and time again, not just by Elon Musk, who's working for free, not by Doge, who's working around the clock, by young, very precocious, amazing, intelligent people. but by actual Democrats like Obama. The video footage shows it and proves it. Back in the day when Obama first ran, he wanted to cut fraud, waste, and abuse, and everybody was for it. But now, because it's Trump, their hatred and their consumption of hatred of one man has completely bypassed all levels of reasoning, logic, and critical thinking whatsoever. They vilify this kid, this young man who decides to go serve his country and help Americans save billions and billions of dollars in tax waste, abuse, and fraud. That's what higher education vilifies? Instead of that kid deserves to have his own statue at Harvard. You should be proud that that person went to your school. But this is the state of affairs of higher education. Indoctrination camps. They're not higher ed institutions anymore. Trust me, I know this better than anyone. Get your kids out of school or be very, very selective where they go. Make sure you ask as many questions before you sign the dotted line and give away hundreds of thousands of dollars of your hard-earned money to fund these indoctrination camps. I never thought I would say this before in my life, especially because I come from a family that education is like up here. When I grew up, if you didn't have a degree, you were considered a bum. Nowadays it's completely different. You can learn anything just by listening to a podcast or watching YouTube practically. Now with artificial intelligence, that's just going to become exponentially more convenient and easy. But I never thought I would say this. For the first time in my life, I'm considering telling my kids not to go to college. But that's the state of affairs we're in. And so everything Trump, everything the administration, everything that Secretary Noem has said is absolutely accurate. This is the byproduct of years and years of fomenting and grooming and cultivating a university campus culture of anti-American, socialistic, communistic Bolshevikism. That's literally what's been going on, and we're now seeing the fruit of that labor. I can't wait to get your thoughts and comments on this. Let me know down below what you think. If you love America, tap that thumbs up. You can use your remote on your TV. Just move the cursor and tap that thumbs up. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it helps us out exponentially. I see you eyeing this 100% made in the USA design, Nez Nation original. You can find this in our shop in the pinned comment and description down below. Check out these videos coming up on the screen right here, just in case you missed them. Tap my face right there to subscribe and follow. And as always, may God bless you and may God bless the USA. I'll see you soon.